Hi, we're back. Podcast is unleashed. Yes. Another Monday morning, Monday evening, depending where you are in the world. Well, if you're in Britain, in London, it's 7 p.m. If you're in the East Coast, I believe it's 2 p.m. And if you're in East Africa, it's 9 p.m. So nice to have you here today. I'm Simon Rushton. I'm one of the hosts today. My podcast is Taxi Chronicles, but I shall allow the rest to present themselves. So starting with Howler.
Hi everyone. So I'm the host of the podcast Women with Stories, where I share real stories from women who rose above different challenges. So check it on Spotify and all other podcast platforms. Over to you, Matilda.
Hello, everyone. I'm the host of Coffee with Matilda, A Journey to Self. My podcast is about loving yourself, finding yourself, and coming out of adversity stronger. And to you, Nelson.
And hi, I'm Nelson J. Zambrano. I'm the host of Investing in America, where we talk about how to invest in the United States, specifically real estate. And we have a host of other topics. About 25% of my topics we cover the other things that are needed to have a successful life. Okay, and with that, over to you. I guess it's to Victor. Victor, to you with your Idi Amin shirt. I love it.
Thank you, Nelson. It's full to breasted pockets. Yeah. So, thank you for that. See, I am Victor Seo. I'm the host of the Diaspora Entrepreneurs Podcast. Right now, I am in the beautiful country called Nigeria. And I'm the host of the Diaspora Entrepreneurs Podcast, where I have conversations with entrepreneurs from the African and Caribbean community who have successfully moved from a 9 to 5 to a lifestyle of freedom. So over to you, Carla.
And I'm Carla. I'm the host of the Wonder and Wellbeing podcast, which is a podcast for parents and educators, and it's all about education and wellbeing. Back to you, Simon.
Thank you for that, guys. And my podcast is Taxi Chronicles, where I interview people, and I've got over 600 episodes as they get into the taxi and they just share their story. And you may be able to hear one or two of them or snippets of them today. Our topic today is about education. It's called The Pros and Cons, boarding school versus state school and private education, and the pros and cons. And the reason I chose this topic, because a lot of people who I have in a taxi come from all walks of life. Some are in the state school, and you hear where they are in life, because one of the pinnacle questions I always ask people is, what were you like in school? And they talk about whether their life was in boarding school, in state school, grammar school, comprehensive school. And it's quite interesting to see the diversity and see where people are. There's also the political angle. Does it shape your future? Is it guaranteed if you went to, let's say, Dulwich Boys or Harvard University or some prestige nursery, that you're going to be a politician? Some people may say yes, some people may say no. But this is something we can all discuss, and we'll have a wide range of experience within the group itself. Now, I'm going to play, the aim of this episode is just to allow just to allow everybody to get an insight into somebody else's world. Because Victor's gone to boarding school in Nigeria. I have never been to Nigeria. Howler's been in her international schools. Matilda, the traveler she is, she's been everywhere. And Nelson's covered South and North America. And then Carla's, she's taught in schools as well as being educated in schools. And so we're all dealing with all different parts of the world. I think it's going to be a very, very interesting topic. I'm going to play a little snippet from one of my podcasts. There is a section, Nelson, if you can bring up, there's one of the banners which shows my episodes. Can you see it, Nelson?
And on the banner, excuse me, right here, I believe this is the one.
Thank you. These episodes here are all about education. It's all where people have just expressed themselves about how they feel in their experience in boarding school and various other things. So I just want to play a short snippet bit that we are, excuse me, here we are. Yeah, a short snippet where you can hear some guy expressing his experience in boarding school. So just bear with me. They're not playing. I don't know. Oh. Sorry, we've got a bit technical problems here. I'm not sure what's happening, but we can always come back to that. I will throw a question out to everybody first. Starting off with Howler, what was it like being in an international school growing up for you?
It's been a great experience for me. Actually, I have been in different types of schools. I have been into a religious school. I have been into a private school. I have been to international schools. So, because we moved a lot in different countries, and each country they have their own schools, and that was a really great experience to see the different education system, and how in some topics that the idea that it fed to you from the teacher is different than the teacher in the other country. So it was very interesting because it gave me that to be more open to know more about what's happening outside. And also be international school is very good because you've met with a lot of people from different backgrounds. No one is the same as you are different, and it's a really good way to celebrate the uniqueness of every child in a school. So that was very interesting. We are going in depth in it later.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for that. I'm just about to try and play this. Hopefully, it will play again. Maybe not. Maybe
Simon, while you're trying to play that, I have a question for Kaola.
Okay.
So, Kaola, was it because you were traveling so much, or were you just getting kicked out of a lot of schools? Come on. Were you just getting kicked out of schools?
Oh, my
No,
goodness.
no, I was a very good child. No.
Oh, okay. Oh, a child. Oh, okay. The truth is, okay, teenager.
Yeah, well, teenager, I got it like more smooth way of taking things. I was not really a hard worker, but I mean, I enjoyed my teenage life. So
Okay. Oh, we'll leave it at that.
So thank you for that.
All right,
This episode is called Private School versus Public School. Public school is another terminology for the higher state school in certain terms, and in other countries it will be stated as the higher echelons, the 1% of school. So hopefully this will play now. I don't know what's going on. Clearly it's not working. So let's just do a round of, let's see where, Matilda, what is your experience like in school? I just want to quickly go through everybody and just see what kind of school they went to, and then we can move on from there.
I went to private school in Iran. In America, I went to a public higher education and also private ones. I've experienced both in America, but in Iran, it was private all the way. I was always in an Armenian school, so for my, it was more like the parents cared that I'm in that community. Not necessarily they give you the best education, but I have the holidays that I need and the people that I need. And obviously, being in an Armenian school, you have a lot of freedom as far as going out parties and some events. Considering it's Iran we're talking about.
Okay, so Victor, what was your situation when it came to school?
Yeah, thank you, Simon. My situation is I went to boarding school, so, and one straight one, boarding house all the way from my secondary school, grammar school, if you call it, my college. Yeah, and Yeah, throughout the sixth form, yeah. And also, and it was a public school. So it was a state school. My University of Benin state school as well was a federal school. So in Nigeria, we have state, federal, and the ones that the local government control, which is the primary schools.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So I went to public school.
And Carla?
Yeah, I went to the good old British state school system. And I don't say that lightly. It is a very good education system, which I learned later when I went to teach in a different system, which we can talk about later.
And Nelson, where did you?
I went to a combination. Growing up I was born in the U.S. My parents sent me to Columbia to go to school, so I ended up going to school in Columbia, and it was a very elite private school. This is kind of like almost out of the days of the British Empire. Only the U.S. flag flew at this school. We only celebrated U.S. holidays. You had to speak English, so it was a very unique experience. And so that was there. Then when I came back to the U.S., or my parents brought me back, I went to a very tough inner city school in Brooklyn, New York. That was a big difference. And then from there, I took a series of exams to go to a public school, but it had a very high ranking in New York City. So it was a combination. It was all the extremes.
For those of us, well, this can be answered for all of us, really. Some of us have children, some of us are yet to have children. Would you allow your children to take the same route you have taken in education, and why? Shall we start off with Howler?
Well, it's a very interesting question. I would definitely put my kids into an international school because I would like them to have a wider perspective about the world and about the relationship that they will have with different people from different countries. And of course, the side of culture or religion would be more teaching in at home. But I want them to have to learn different languages, to know more about the world around them, so they can make better choices. Because if kids were put in a school where they see people like them at the same nationality, same thing, I don't think they will have that open mind when they grow up and when they go outside their country. I think they will struggle more because they didn't have that knowledge before. So of course, international and very good international school. So I need to be very rich for that.
That's an interesting point there. That's a very interesting point. Who feels their school failed them? Go on, Nelson.
Well, but before the question about the school failing them, I just want to agree 110% with what Kaola said about an international school. So much of my success in the military and other areas came because of those formative years of going to school overseas, where I could see 3 and 4 or 5 different perspectives that were totally blind for my classmates and for the people around me later on. So 100% I agree with Kaola. Not just a private school, but an international school gives a huge advantage on that. So I just wanted to agree with what Kaola was saying.
Does anybody feel that their education system failed them? Go on, Nelson.
Yeah, and
I'll say. Oh,
yeah,
okay, go ahead.
well, I wouldn't say that it failed me, but I would say that there were some shortcomings. So, for example, the school, even college, even university, didn't teach about personal finance. That was something that you just kind of ran into that brick wall. So they really didn't teach about that. And they even said, we're not going to teach that. And I thought it was kind of odd. The only time I learned that was before we went into the military and an insurance company came and spoke to us. And they were the ones who actually started the process. But as far as that area, I hate to say it, but it was a failure. Why? It was just omission. It wasn't just talked about. So in that specific area, I would say that was a bit of a failure.
Victor, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say yes and no. The no is that because of my interaction in the boarding house, it gave me a wider perspective, seeing different perspective, how people live, But yes, it's because I was now thinking back. I am disappointed. I am disappointed. Back then I wasn't, but I am disappointed to see that we were learning about Mongo Park, the Wright brothers and co, Lord Lugard and these kind of figures coming to discover us, So I think the education system is disappointing us till now, because most of the books or most of the publishers like Macmillan and Co, Oxford and Co, they're the one creating those textbooks. So I think it is disappointing on our part to be learning about different cultures. Primarily, like 70-80% we're learning about different culture from primary, secondary, where it should be the reverse of we learning 80% about the Benin Empire, the great empires, great heroes from our past who has done a lot for us. The Kwame Nkrumahs, we should have been learning about those, but instead we're learning about what's his name? We're learning about Winston Churchill and Abraham Lincoln. Should be like 20% or less than 20% of the curriculum. So that's why I said
it's funny.
Yeah, it is.
It's funny when you say that, Victor, because if you think about growing up in England, we'd get like an hour session on certain history things, and then that's it for the whole year, the whole period of time. But Carla, I have to go to you on this, because you said Britain's a very good education system, and we're hearing other things about other people. So for someone who teaches or have taught and has been in the system, what would you say to what Victor says?
I agree with that. I definitely agree with what he's talking about. The whole concept of worldviews and knowledge, and certain people having sort of like a gatekeeper role over knowledge and deciding which knowledge goes out there and which doesn't, and which perspectives are put to the forefront and which are put to the back. I think that's a really good point, and I think that is one of the shortcomings. But actually, I don't think that it's exclusive to any one place. I think that what I've seen as an educator is that that's the case everywhere. Those who govern the education system in any place always make sure that their worldview, their perspective, and the ideas that they want to put forward are put forward. It's not it doesn't just happen in the West either. So quite often we hear that in the West you have this imperialist view that overarches the school curriculums and things like that. But I've seen it also in other parts of the world, where whole sections of books that don't align with the viewpoint of people are ripped out, or even like certain things crossed out of books in a very crude and blatant way. So it's not even done subtly. That is an issue, I think, in the education system, because that reveals the fact that there are agendas that are at work in the education system, which we often don't like to hear or like to discuss, because perhaps it's uncomfortable, and it maybe sometimes makes people think that we're stepping over into the realm of conspiracy theories, but it is actually happening. People do decide what goes into curriculums and what to take out, and it isn't always based on good things.
We've got, thanks, Carla. We've got a diverse group of people here from all types of schools. Does anybody feel that there wasn't an agenda at the type of school that they went to? You do, Matilda? Tell us about that. So you went to a couple of different schools.
One second. Matilda, 1 second. Simon, we had a little bit of a lapse. If you could just repeat the question, please. A little lapse in communication.
I said, based on our wide, diverse experience that we've had from different cultures that we are to different religions and all the rest of it, does anybody feel that there wasn't an agenda at their school? Now you look back on it, and Matilda put her hand up. So Matilda's going to explain how she feels in Iran or whatever country she chooses that she is studying at, talk about that there wasn't an agenda. So we're over to you, Matilda.
I think we are criticizing school a lot. I don't know, but in my case, I'm like, the school was nice. Okay, maybe the school didn't teach me about finances. It's very true. I don't think any school in the world teaches you about how to manage your money or how to manage your emotions, how to handle heartbreak, how to handle self-love. These are very important elements in your life, or an element for a teenager to navigate their own life. But I think we have a very big expectation of school. Why should a school teach you these things? A school just needs to open up your mind, give you a bigger perspective
Come
by
on.
teaching you math, by teaching you physics,
Come
All
on.
by
right, Victor,
teaching
you'll get
you.
your say. Carry on, Matilda. Sorry, carry
I don't think. I mean, it's the job of family to
on.
teach
Okay.
that child a lot of elements in of life,
So
or
what?
Wait, but
Matilda,
Victor,
the
I'm sorry.
programming.
Wait, sorry, Nelson. I'm tempted to go to Victor, but I'm interested to see where Howler's point of view.
No, but let me just take 2 seconds. We have a divergent viewpoint of people that do not have kids, people that do have kids. I just wanted to throw that out there. I just wanted to
but
throw
you
that
know
out.
if
what?
I have a child,
But
Simon,
I have a
Simon,
child.
over to you.
all right,
When
Nelson,
I have a child,
I will have to say you don't have to have a child to have opinion on education. As long as you've been educated to some degree, you've got a valid opinion.
You
But
might have a very strong opinion if you have kids.
No, yeah, but it's still the idea is you've been educated and you'll be
Right.
able to reflect on what your own education
Mhm.
and then make an informed decision on whether you want to follow the same route. But
Yeah,
Howler, before I
yeah.
jump to Victor, have you got anything you want to say to what Matilda just said? You're muted, I believe. And
got a
in the way Howler's just
connection
sorting that
issue,
out, just to let
right?
you know, the audience, there's audience questions for the people who are watching, is what was the pros and cons of your private/state education? So you can come in with comments when you meanwhile, but Howler, do you have anything to say?
Yes, actually, I have just a short story to say. When I was in the middle school, I was in Egypt, so it was a normal school. It was not international. So we took history about Egypt and the revolution, what's happening, and also we took geography. So it was very, national Egypt, and my father took a look about the geography, and they talked about Africa, and half of the information were not real. So he was very angry about the information that he saw in the geography. So he went straight to write a letter to the Minister of Education in Egypt to correct all the misinformations
Can
about
you
the geography in Africa, and because they have they were explained the geography, and they explained the geography for Morocco, and it was all negative things. So he didn't understand. It was like, what are you studying? What is that? So he wrote a letter to the minister of education.
okay?
He took my book. So I was like for 2 months without a geography book, and I didn't know how to study. So
Okay.
yeah, and they have changed actually the information that was there. So sometimes actually there was like a lot of books, and they don't review these books. And I think the information needs to be reviewed. It needs to be coming from trusted sources, because sometimes you can learn about some countries, but sometimes it could be false informations, and parents need to be aware of what the children are really learning about.
That's
So
very true.
yeah.
Victor, thank you,
Yeah.
Howler.
What is the okay? We have Carla here. She's been in education for a long time. So Carla, what is it called when when student starts to recite certain words? Oh, who discovered the river Niger? Mungo Park. Who discovered this? This. Who named this? That. Who named it? What is it called?
It's called rote learning.
To me, it's called
Memorization.
programming. To me, it's called programming.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you have when you have Matilda, just to like counter what you're saying. So when you have kids, me going to school for 6 to 7 hours, and I'm made to recite who discovered where my grandfather goes to farm. Eh? When you have kids who, like myself, who comes back and like challenge my dad, now my kids are challenging me because I'm like, who taught you this? Yeah, like Hala's dad, what kind of book are you reading? You look at the book, who wrote this?
Okay, I
Because
can
you
answer.
know, you get. So when kids are being programmed like 6 to 7 hours a day, and you don't know where the source of information is coming from, then you know there's some agenda going on. But right now, everything that is being, if you finish the university in Nigeria, you want to go straight, you just want to go to the airport and move.
So,
Because
okay,
we've been
I'm gonna
programmed to
answer
do
this.
so.
Can I? Listen, I grew up in Iran. In Iran, everything is censorship. You read history book, it's not what reality is. It's what Islamic Republic of Iran wants you to know. So you learn about the history of the world. It's nothing. There is no woman in it. Everything is censored. The Shah is the worst enemy of the world, the most evil of the world. But it doesn't matter what you learn. The school needs to teach a child curiosity, excitement, and maybe with math and chemistry and physics and even the history that they're teaching, that you know, because your parents are telling you this is bunch of crap. That's not what history happened. Shah was this, or Roman Empire did this. You can read other books than your school book to learn. So I think when I came to America as an Iranian student, I was brighter because my schooling taught me what school teach you is just to get a grade, but if I really want to learn, I have to read other books. I have to be part of the world. And instead of reading one history book of your school, you have to learn 5, 6, 7 other history books of the world to understand what the world is about. What Iranian school didn't fail, or my private school didn't fail, is teach me that curiosity for living, curiosity for being part of the world, meeting other people from other cultures, and the excitement of it.
This brings into mind, very, very fair point, Matilda. This brings into mind the different levels of education. Because in boarding school, for those who've been to boarding school, and I know obviously, Victor, you've been to boarding school, but I'm not sure how different boarding school is between the boarding school in England and boarding school in Nigeria. My child goes to private school in Kenya. That's because the state school can't just provide facilities you need. Is what are they teaching and to what standard? As in Matilda's being up. But sorry, Nelson, over to you.
Yeah, just right quick. For our audience, we got a question for you. What are the pros and cons of your education? We want to hear what you guys have to say. What are the pros and cons of your education? What would you like to have seen more, less? Were you bullied in school? Did you get beat up? I mean, what's going on? Let us know. We want to know. What you have to say matters. So feel free, just type away. We want to know what you have to say. Simon, over to you.
Thank you. So, in your boarding school, Victor. Actually, let me jump to Carla on this one because Carla's been in Qatar, where it was a boarding school. Is that correct, Carla?
Yeah, I worked in a boarding school.
So, how was the education in the boarding school differ from where we are?
Well, it was very different, actually. The school that I was in designed their own curriculum, which is very rare to find nowadays. Most schools around the world have a curriculum that's designed externally, and maybe they're allowed to do some adaptations to it or some kind of tweaking and adjusting, but they don't write it. Our school, we wrote it from scratch, and we had standards that we used from the government standards. and also books that we bought in from a range of different places. And we combined all of these different things together to create a ready-made curriculum. And that was primarily because the students had complex needs. So they came from all different backgrounds. And because they were students on a sports scholarship, there was no academic requirements for them to be admitted into the school. And that meant that we would get a range of abilities with every cohort that would come in. And there was no curriculum that would really match that. So we had to design something specialist that would enable the boys to get the basic standards for each age group so that they would stay on track, but also some supplementary material that met their needs. Some of them had additional learning needs. Some of them need an accelerated curriculum. Some of them were international students who had been to international schools and were on a much higher level than some of the government students. And so we had to do a lot of differentiation and a lot of tweaking the curriculum and a lot of streaming students into different groups and giving them individual curriculums for that group. It was a real complex task that we had in that school. It's something like I've never seen before.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's totally different from my boarding school, because we need to pass a common entrance exam, which is done nationally. So at when you're like, we call it year 5, when you're like year 5. So you do the exam at year 5 for you to go into year 7. So if you pass, you pass. But it is pure academic. College. So there's no different curriculum for, but the difference there, and I think with the difference in the United Kingdom is, I think most boarding schools in the United Kingdom are private funded. So I think the agenda or the curriculum a little bit tweaked compared to ours. Ours is a state boarding school. But over the time, the funding was, the funding started to get declined. The funding was declining due to the military rule that lasted for over 10, 20 years. So, but as at then, we still had the basic stuff. But what is the same with boarding house is when you finish the 9 to 3, when you come to the hostel, that is where the actual education takes place, because you start learning how to like communicate, you start learning personal hygiene, you start learning how to deal with different folks, you have conversation with different people, you get into fights with different cliques, so different angles, and you know how to like tolerate people. Just basic manners. That's where you learn that from. That to me, that is the difference.
So what you're referring to, Victor, is life skills.
Yeah.
So we've got a bit of a diverse, where Matilda's talking about having an open mind. You're talking about life skills, and then obviously Carla and Howler were talking about regimes, where you're trying to influence the children to get them to become a certain way. Okay, we've got a comment from Sasha Nelson. Go on. Sorry, Nelson, you're muted.
We've got a comment here right off the presses from Sasha Serge Bakarian. Okay. Sasha will also, by the way, because he's a long-time listener, will be getting a special gift from us. That gift will be delivered by Matilda Tavarian, So, all right. Reading out Sasha's comment here. The best education is to discover other visions in life and different cultures. The level in my private school is particularly high, but the best is interacting in life for sure. 1 second. He's got something right behind that. Hold on. For example, in the United States, the level of culture is very poor. Hey, Sasha. Hey, what's up with that? And self-centered, and the most middle class is not far from being completely brainwashed by a specific culture. Sasha, your gift may be coming really slow. Your gift from that self-centered, very poor person might not be appearing. Okay, so I'll read it out again. For example, in the United States, the level of culture is very poor. How do you say that in Armenian, Matilda? Okay, no, I'm sorry. Self-centered and the most middle class is not far from
I
being
don't think he
completely
means me.
brainwashed by a specific culture. And another thing on the heels of it, the lack of interactions with other cultures is a real weak point in the education for me.
Now, I have
And
to
as an
jump in there.
American, I agree.
Yeah, I
All
have
right.
to jump in there and
Sasha,
say,
thank you.
thank you, Nelson. Different cultures are known for
Your gift
different
might be
things.
comment on an installment plan. Okay. Simon, over to you.
Thank you, Nelson. Different cultures are known for different things around the world.
Okay,
obviously-
Simon is having some technical difficulties.
You can't hear
Simon,
me?
we're not able to hear you.
So we can hear Simon.
I
We
can
can
hear-
hear Simon.
Yeah, it's you,
Okay,
Nelson.
well, look, as soon as Simon gets back up and running, okay, we've got some other
Okay.
questions coming. We've got some other questions
Nelson.
coming because we can't hear Simon. So,
But we can hear Simon.
what would you say are the pros and cons of your education? And when Simon's up and running, Simon's
Nelson,
over
let me
you.
have-
What would
Sorry.
you say are the pros and cons of your education?
Nelson, what are you on?
Victor, followed by Carla, and then we'll go forward.
Can you hear me, Nelson? Can you hear me, Nelson?
All right. We all need to have lip reading as far as our education in school. Okay.
Okay,
We need to have lip reading.
okay, so
And
Can you
we're
hear
Nelson,
gonna
me,
try this
thank
one
you.
more time,
He can
Simon.
Can
hear.
someone mute Nelson?
Okay. I don't know. Right. So back to I will say different cultures are known for different things. Obviously, the French are known for
Yeah.
speaking their mind. The Americans are known for not being too well traveled, even though they have a big influence in the world. A high percentage of them don't hold passports. Is this down to education, or is this down to the size of their country and they just got too much to know what's going on internally rather than externally? Who's to say? I think that's more for your audience to answer, and you as my co-host. Matilda, over to you.
I have a very interesting experience when I just arrived to America. In Iran, we have a very high level education as far as math and physics and chemistry goes. And I mean, not because I was a good student in Iran, but not because I was a good student that I passed. When I went to college, the first day I took the test and I passed calculus. And I wasn't even studying for it to take the test, and it was even in English. I wasn't even understanding lots of terminologies in English. But for Iranian students, this was such an easy test, and I didn't study anything in college in math in America because I passed all the level till I went to university. And the funny part was, this is the level that we would studying in 10th grade or ninth grade, and made me realize why the level of education in these areas is low. Or in geography class, they would tell me this is college. In politics class, they were saying, "Oh, you're from Iraq. How does your country and my country is in war?" I'm like, "No, I am the country neighbor, and it's called Iran." And they're like, "But we never heard of it." I'm like, "How can you not hear Iran when you hear Iraq? It's next to it. Bring the map." And I had to teach them there is two countries next to each other, similar names. And for me, it was shocking because in Iran, you don't have this kind of. In elementary school, you learn about countries. So it's interesting to understand how different cultures or how different countries teach about the world.
Matilda, I will say there's 195 countries in the world. Do you know everyone?
But if my country is in a war with another country, I will know definitely.
No, don't get me wrong. I'm just asking you.
You know that's not a justification for that.
No,
Because
wait a minute, Victor. Think of this. Regardless of where there are wars are in the world and where America or whoever's involved, a lot of people are concerned about what matters to them. Now, just because your country's at war, if you're detached, it may not matter. But I'm not here to debate.
Have you heard CNN or BBC? Iran is in it because every bad thing that happens in the world, Iran is blamed for. Iran is
or North Korea.
So, yeah,
or China,
if you know North Korea,
or Russia,
Iran as well.
Simon, in primary school, geography, when we're doing geography or social studies, countries in the world, countries in Africa, country in Europe, country in the Middle East, country in Asia, country in America. Names, countries and capitals, countries and capitals. So we lent them.
Okay.
So
Victor,
now, yeah,
what I say to
you hear
you
that?
on that I would debate that certain African standard of education is higher than British education in certain aspects, because in England you'll probably be given a map. Why don't you colour it in today, Bobby, if you feel like it? And that's it. But anyway, what I want to ask you guys is that school fees or education fees in England for university, for example, were £3,000 a year, and that's 9,000. That's double. There's no real justification for it, but many people are happy to pay that fees because they see education is so important, whether the child knows what they want to do or not. Is there a financial limit where you just say, I'm not prepared to pay for my child to go to boarding school, international school, or as long as they're in a school, I don't care? Or is there, you have to get them in that 1%? Over to you, Victor.
No, the answer is no.
Said like a true
I
Nigerian.
have, yeah, I have an $18,000 be waiting for me in 2 years' time, because my daughter wants to go to CalArts in San Francisco, somewhere in California. So she has already like, oh, this is waiting for you. You get, so I'm not sure if there's any, because investment, the return on investment is, who knows.
How you've obviously been to international schools, and Carla, you've been to very expensive schools taught in them. Do you think there is a price on how much education is worth, or is it infinity and beyond?
Well, I think definitely there is a price, and I think also the different schools needs to learn more about the revenues of the parents. Sometimes they can do that. For example, they can help a child out based on the revenues of parents, or if the child is very skilled or something, they can put that child in a good school. I think the government need to put more efforts into having a quality education for the people out there. But if it doesn't happen, I think parents need, if they can't pay, for example, for the international school, they need to make time for children after school to teach them other things. But if they will invest more money, and if they will just want to give them more money to the school, they need to make sure that that school is covered in different areas. So, I mean, definitely there's need to be a price, and there are very expensive schools. Even in France, international school is very expensive.
Okay, and Carla, and then Nelson.
This is interesting. It's quite complex. I would say, to start off, there's a difference between being schooled and being educated. Being schooled, you can pay for, right? And it comes in a range of prices. Name your price tag and it's out there. There's also a big difference between university education and what you're paying for there and what you're paying for little children. I personally would not advise parents of young children, I mean children below 14, for example, to pay large amounts of fees for their child's education, because there's very little difference. Being an educator and having seen many curriculums and being on the other side of it, be careful what you think you're getting when you pay for it, because quite often it's stuff that is poor quality and it's been packaged up with a fancy uniform and lots of fees and lots of emails and things like that to make you think that you're getting a quality product, but that's not necessarily the case. And I know that's true also with university, but the difference is with the university is you can do a lot more research into what's going on behind. And also your child is a young adult when they're going to university, so they're involved in the decision. I've seen lots of rip-off elementary schools, private elementary schools. I've seen lots of shoddy curriculums I've done a lot of research. When my children went overseas, I had to look into a lot of private schools there and look at what they were getting, what we were getting for our money. And a lot of it was real. It was real rubbish. A lot of it was copied and pasted off the internet. A lot of it was just downloads, and you were paying thousands for your kid to have downloaded worksheets off the internet that you could download yourself. So what I would say to parents is, when you are paying for education, if you choose to, do your research, really look carefully, and never believe that it's the school's job to educate your child. They may school them, but your job is to make sure they're educated, because it's you in the end that has to hold the consequences of an uneducated child. And some children spend years and years in school and come out uneducated, and you come out with a lighter pocket for it, or debts. So it's up to the parents to do their research and be responsible and make sure that they're getting what they think they're getting, and not just sign a check and put the kid with someone else and expect the kid to come out educated, because that doesn't always happen.
Okay, thanks. Go on, Nelson.
And you know what? We've got a comment coming in here from Sausage Church Precarian. But before that, that might even be a whole podcast episode, or Carla, excuse me, an episode on how to do due diligence on the school. I'm actually looking for a school for my daughters. That's a fantastic. If you could do an episode on that in your podcast or here, I would be all over it. Okay, from Sasha Serge. We've got a positive point. In France was the level before in general culture, but it is changing now. But it's a socialist country, so that the lack of business education is a weak point. And on the heels of that, we've got Fred Villalobos coming in here from Florida. Okay. Hey, I went to elementary and middle schools in Costa Rica. Then came to the U.S. All of my schooling here, besides college and government schools, no issues. My child is going to public school here in Florida, and no issues. Fred, thank you very much.
Thank you. Go on, Matilda.
I think it's important to understand what that parents want. I think in my case, my parents wanted me to have or if I want to take my child, I will take my child to a private school, and maybe a Swiss boarding school, so I can do my things and she or he will be safe. I don't know. But maybe if I have a child, my attitude will be different. But I think as a mother or as a father, you just want your child to be in a safe environment, to be in a clean environment, meaning like the children are not drugs, or the other classmates' parents are not in a wrong state of mind. So you just want a clean and a balanced environment for your child. I think if that child doesn't read math very well at the age of 6 or 7, it's not a big deal, but at least that child learns how to deal with other classmates, how to resolve a fight, for example, in a class, or how to respond to authorities. These are life lessons that a child learns in that environment that is way more beneficial, because at the older age you use it too, than just the math and I don't know, chemistry, because then you can learn it by yourself, or in your university you will learn it as well.
Okay.
Well, we just had a comment come in, and this is a good people skill here that Frederick Villalobos is showing to us. Okay, good people skills. Fred says, good to see you guys. Fred, it's great to see you as well. Fred, great to see you. Sasha Serge as well. And for all you quiet people out there that aren't saying anything.
Mhm. Okay.
And
Okay.
from Sasha, hold on a second. We got another one coming in from Sasha. To protect children too much is a mistake. I'll read this out again. To protect children too much is a mistake. But I'm pro private school and boarding school.
Mhm.
I am pro private school. Sasha, got a question for you. Are you pro sending your spouse off to boarding school? Okay. Let us know in the chat. Let us know in the chat. Okay, Sasha. All right. Simon, back to you.
Okay. Okay. What I'm interested in, because obviously we've got people who've done boarding school and people who haven't. I'm not a fan of boarding school. I haven't been there. I've been in the most closest thing is like something like the Scouts, when you go and stay away. What I'm looking at is, at the end of the day, as a parent, it's your duty to know what's going on in a child's life, and it's part of developing them and teaching them, so they can go away in the day, but they have to come home, because any issue I can nip in the bud straight away before it gets too silly. And it doesn't mean me marching down the school. That means me advising that child how to do with things, whether it's by force, which people know I'm quite a bit of a fan of, or diplomacy, which probably be the missus, their mum's way of dealing with things. But just leaving them for months on end, and especially what I saw when I was staying in East Africa, bear with me, Victor, it's like many parents just forget about their children. And then they just say, okay, oh, it's the holidays. I better have them. Yeah, okay. Well, I have them for 2 weeks out of the month. And it's like, really? Why did you have children? Because your job as a parent is to teach them life skills and make sure it's polished and check these things off. And you don't want to be checking things off 3-4 months down the line and you've realized you've wasted 3-4 months and there's a problem. But Victor, back to you.
Yeah, Simon, don't look at it that way as if you're just shipping them away and say, "Oh,
That's what I saw, Victor. That's what I saw.
I need some time off." And see, I had to trust myself. I had to rely on myself. When I was it 11, 10, 11, it was 11. I had to trust myself. I came from a very, well, as Simon, what's it called? Sasha said, I came from a protected kind of, I was the first kid of my mom. I came from a very protected family, according to my mom's standard. But I was sent to a boarding school. Reasons, I don't know why. Because I had younger ones that followed me. So, I was there alone with my provisions. I had a housemaster. I started dealing with different people. That was when I knew for the first time that people don't have people. There are people who don't have 3 square meals in a day. I saw people eating once from those kind of interaction. I had to confront bullies, people who just want to take stuff from you. So if you go as a diplomat, yeah, but sometimes you need to allow your kids to go find a way around it. So if it comes to the knuckle, so you just need to allow your kids, trust them. That's what I'm going to say. Trust them. Don't think you're shipping them away, but trust them to handle themselves.
I hear what you're saying. We've got some comments. You want to throw them out there, Nelson? Oh, we can't hear you.
Yes, we got comments here. Okay, we got from Sasha. I think I've read this one out here, and I'm going to read out again. To protect children too much is a mistake, but I'm a pro private school and boarding school. Okay. Now we've got one came in from Fred. In my case, Nelson, it would depend on how good looking my housekeeper was. Okay, in Latin America, you have a housekeeper. And sometimes the housekeeper is a hottie. So, AKA Arnold. Okay, does everybody know Arnold Schwarzenegger? What happened with him?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Arnold Schwarzenegger and the housekeeper. Okay.
No.
Many places in the world you have a housekeeper. You have when I was in Kenya, you had the lady wash your clothes, the lady come there cook, the lady look after your kids, the lady.
I have a housekeeper. Yeah. So what happened with Arnold?
Okay, all right. Everybody.
You can Google that. You can Google that later. But if you got an audition, you can see what happened.
But mine is the missus that does the audition.
Our ratings will go up if we talk about Arnold and the housekeeper. Okay, Fred, okay. I will do everything possible for us to have a podcast episode on that topic. Okay, Simon, back to you.
Thank you. So, Victor, all I'm saying, because I have a friend and he's very posh and wealthy background, and he said he was an advocate for boarding school because he was really inconsiderate and selfish as a child because he was so spoiled. And boarding school, like you said, exactly the same thing you said, he said. But then I would argue, or some people may say, that maybe the parent it's not the parent's objective to spoil the child. So if the parents is having, do you see what I mean? There should be a balance. As a parent, I don't want to spoil my child. I don't want to make them undesirable.
But Simon,
Nelson,
okay.
I don't want them to be undesirable. I want them to have a balance of, yeah, there's some privilege, but you also go without. And on the other side of things, there's something called playing out, which I know Carla knows about, where you just play out in the afternoon around the street, and you know who the bullies are, and you know who everybody is, and you get in your fights and everything, but you come home in the evening and you can have a conversation with your dad or your mum about it, and you go to bed, you wash up and go to bed, and that's how life is for us in Britain in a state school. Go on, Nelson.
So, Simon, I was just thinking about something you said. Now, what if the parents know that is a weak point of theirs, that they're going to spoil this child? I mean, what if they just acknowledge, hey, look, I'm going to be weak at this. The kid looks at me halfway like, and, they give him everything. So the parent says, I have to outsource this responsibility, right?
I'll let Carla answer that. Carla, what would you say to that, Carla, being the super mum you are?
I think it's up to the parents, really. You have to make decisions. And I'm a big fan of people making their own decisions, but making informed decisions. That's the issue. Decisions have to be informed. And that means that you have to do your research. You have to get information. You have to really be honest. So not every parent, for example, that sends their child away to boarding school is doing it because they don't want to look after them. Sometimes they're doing it because they know it's going to be good for the child because they've got a goal in mind. But there are many reasons why people might send their children to boarding schools, and some of them may be positive reasons, some of them may not be. I'm not necessarily against boarding school, but what I am against doing it without being conscious and without a clear goal in mind, and also without doing research with regard to how it's going to affect the child. And you can't always know, actually, how things are going to affect a child, because sometimes it's outside of your control. But I believe in informed decision making overall in everything, and that it takes work. It takes work to make an informed decision.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think
so one second. We got a comment. Just came in from Sasha Search Bakarian. There is no perfect education, but you build yourself in adversity and interactions. So give hard times to your children is the best service you can do for them. Okay. Sasha, I'm going to read that out twice, and can you make that into a t-shirt? There is no perfect education, but you can build yourself in adversity and interactions. So give hard times to your children is the best service you can do for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for that. I think Carlos just summarized along with Howler. Carla has just summarized along with Sasha. Okay,
hold on. We got another one coming in.
Nelson,
it's from Sasha.
What I want from everybody here before we end up closing is just 2 words. Yeah, Nelson's going to read the comments from Sasha. Then I want 2 words from everybody. What is the most important factor when deciding education for your children or your children to be? Over to you, Nelson.
I'm going to pass on that. Some technical difficulty here getting Sasha's thing ready. So I'm going to turn it over to Victor.
Okay.
And just come back to me at the end.
Victor, what's the 2 words? Come on. We're closing up.
Whoa, Nancy, according to your own words, a good podcaster can handle anything, Anyways, 2 words. One is curiosity. Not curiosity. I don't know.
Okay, Matilda, what's 2 words?
Come back. Yeah,
good podcast would have been on the point.
I would my child. I want to put my child in a school that school can teach that child the wonder of the world, so they can be enthusiastic about the world.
Okay. Matilda's had a bit of issue with 2 words. Howler.
Wonder and enthusiastic.
Hunger and enthusiastic. Okay.
Wonder.
Wonder. Okay. All right, Howler.
2 words, I think, expand their knowledge, and they need to keep in mind that there is no better country than, there is no the best or the worst country, and they need really to be interacting with different people, different children from different nationalities, so they can understand that they are not above or below from other people.
Just to let the audience know, there's many people here from different countries. So when we say 2 words, that is interpreted in many different forms across the spectrum. Nelson, what 2 words from you, please?
Well, the
No,
first thing I
because
want to say is from Sasha Surge, okay? The young generation became physically weak and intellectually just because parents protect them too much nowadays. Hear that? Okay.
yeah.
So,
So my 2 words.
Sorry, Victor, you're at the
Yeah,
end.
my 2 words.
Nelson's meant to do his 2 words. Come on, Nelson,
Okay.
please.
people skills, persistence.
Okay, well, at least we're narrowing it down. Carla?
Look, ain't nobody here a math major, okay? We know nobody here majored in math. All right, let's just get that.
Come on.
I've got them in my podcast, Wonder and Wellbeing. They're there for a reason.
Okay.
Uh,
Come on. Victor, come. Ooh.
Yeah, confidence, self-confidence, and make them understand education is continuous.
You said self-confidence and okay.
Education is continuous.
Okay. Well, it's been a great, interesting conversation today. Thanks for all who turned up. Sasha, Frederick, we appreciate you. You're giving your input and you're making us think. Next week we will be Victor hosting, and he will be talking about what makes you religious. Is it your actions? Is it the way you dress? Is it what you say you believe in? There's many things. Is it where you live? Some people don't feel they're religious unless they live within earshot of the Vatican or the local mosque or all these different things. So these are many, many things and more that we will be discussing next week, 7 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, and obviously 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 9 p.m. East African Time. Apart from that, we wish you well, but before we go, we're just going to have a quick reminder of everybody's podcast. So, Howler, starting with you.
Yes, Women and Stories podcast, where I share stories from women in different countries. So tune in, and I'm going to rebrand it soon. So yes, can't wait to see you to give you guys the latest information about it. Over to you, Carla.
My podcast is the Wonder and Wellbeing podcast, which is for parents and educators. You can catch it everywhere that you find podcasts. And if it's not where you want it to be, reach out and we can get it there. Over to you, Nelson.
And this is Nelson Zambrano here on Investing in America, where we talk about how to invest in U.S. real estate. So coming out every Wednesday, and also keep a sharp eye out for the YouTube channel, launching it in 2 different languages and upcoming book. Okay, folks, over to you, Simon.
Sorry, Matilda, you're going to...
Yeah, mine is Coffee with Matilda, Journey to South, and it's on all platforms, podcast platforms, and Facebook and YouTube. Over to you, Victor.
Yeah, thank you, Matilda. And also, it is 8 p.m. West African time. Yeah, 8 p.m. Lagos time, or Ghana, Accra time, 8 p.m. Yeah, so I'm Victor Osio, the host of the Diaspora Entrepreneurs Podcast. Yeah, we're on Spotify, YouTube, especially YouTube. Yeah, so Apple iTunes and all major podcast platforms. And we launch our podcast every week. So catch us up.
It's Edie Amin time.
And thank you for that. And mine is Taxi Chronicles, where I interview people as they get into my taxi. And I've got over 600 episodes. And it's very interesting, it's diverse, and hopefully it enhances your life. And we post every day at 8 a.m. British Standard or Greenwich Mean Time, whatever floats your boat. Apart from that, have a nice time, and we will see you next week.